Hello, my name is Beth McMahon. I'm the Gillespie County Horticulture Extension Agent, which is over in Fredericksburg. We still have peaches. Come buy some. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking to you about keep or go, getting your vegetable garden set up for a fall vegetable garden, kind of transitioning a spring, summer vegetable garden to a fall garden. So as you can see, we do have a summer, spring vegetable garden here. Pan it a little bit. But you can see that there was a lack of enthusiasm at a certain point in controlling the weeds, which is perfectly normal. I mean, your garden does not have to be Instagram perfect to get vegetables at it, and this garden was very productive. Now, I mean, come on guys, let's be honest. It's hot. And you may have been slaving away in your spring and summer vegetable garden. You're just tired. You're just tired of pulling all the weeds. And I understand that. I mean, I understand that perfectly. You can see that I understand that. But a fall vegetable, are you panning more? You are panning more. A fall vegetable garden it has some good qualities that it's worth considering. So, one of the first things that we're going to go over today is going to be looking at some of your summer vegetables and seeing if they're worth transitioning or keeping into the fall. So let's go ahead and get started with the Lima Beans. Our camera lady doesn't like Lima Beans. We're walking. Oh, we're getting caught. That's a sunflower. Okay, we'll deal with that later. Oh, okay. All right. So these are Lima Beans. The variety is Jackson Wonder. You can see that they've got a little bit of grasshopper damage right here. It's not super bad. I mean, the plants are still here. That's positive thinking. They are still producing flowers, which is great. Not 100% certain they're setting beans, which is, okay, whatever. They have pods that need to be picked. I need to get out here and pick them. But these plants are doing great. They look pretty healthy. Maybe a little bit of spider mites, but what vegetable in here doesn't have spider bites at this point? So these are definitely a keep. They'll keep producing until the first frost, which is in this area is about early November. So let's keep walking. Whoa. I'll go slower. Oh, hey, look, there's a baby lima bean right there. Oh, it is still producing. Good job, Jackson Wonder. Ellen from Brazoria County, if you're watching this, thank you for those seeds. Those are those seeds. All right, we're still walking. Oh, we gotta stop. All right. So this is Landrift stringless green beans. This was the second crop that was planted. The first crop had issues with hail and spider mites. They are still flowering. They are still setting beans, but they're not super big. They're getting only about this big. Oh my gosh, I just tore that off. This big and then they're turning yellow and kind of dying. So the summer heat is not really great for bush beans. I'm looking for a variety that'll take the heat. So if you know a variety that'll take the heat better than these, please leave a name in the comments. I'd greatly appreciate it. But these beans, I mean, they are putting on fresh green leaves and they probably could maybe last it until we have our 100-degree days, and then they're probably going to burn up and fry. But honestly, if I want good production, I'm going to replace them and plant them about right now for my area. That's another thing for starting a fall garden. It may be too late to plant for some of these, or maybe too early. So, but for our area, I could probably get away with planting green beans right now if I wanted a second crop for the fall. So these plants are pretty much toast. I am going to leave them for right now, though, because I'm going to try and collect the seeds. Probably not going to get great seed production off of these. Should have done that earlier, but oh wait, that pod's okay. I'll get a little bit at least. This variety isn't a hybrid, so I can save seeds from it, and beans usually breed true to type. They don't really get outside pollinators. Though I do have a lot of bumblebees in here. Let's keep walking. Alright, so our next plant is going to be, these are Zucchini. They're a dry bean. You can see that the bumblebees do like them. That may potentially be an issue if I wanted to save the seed, which I do. We'll see what it looks like next year, because they could potentially spread pollen from plant to plant. But these guys are still flowering. They still have plenty of fresh green growth. They don't have too many weeds, and they are still producing seed pods. See? Ta-da! Little yellow seed. I'm gonna keep that. They are having some issues with pill bugs, but overall the plants are generally healthy. They should continue to produce until first frost, though this is my first time growing this variety. I've been pretty pleased with it though. Ah. What happened to all our cord? Oh well. We're walking. So right here you can see a little bit of lack of enthusiasm with the weeds. They just grow so fast. They just grow so fast. These are kidney beans right here. There is a little bit of green growth. There's a little bit of young growth. Considering that some of these kidney plants aren't doing as well as the others. I need to check for root knot nematodes on that. I may want to save seeds from the plants that are still pretty, well, still producing, rather than the ones that are kaput. I'm looking at you. Actually, let's look here. Okay, that's not root knot nematode. That plant is just kaput. If it was root knot nematode, I would see like little nodules on the roots and such. But these plants, if I liked kidney beans enough, I would replant them for a fall crop. They should produce in time. Otherwise, they're in not that great of shape. These would be a go. Walk a little bit more. These are yard-long beans. I don't know which variety this is. This was the variety that my grandfather grew, and then I found growing in the garden a couple years later. Nobody had planted it. It had survived the drought. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, these plants are doing not too bad. The leaves are still green. I wish they were greener. They are having some grasshopper issues right there. There's some ant issues up here, but they are still producing and they are heat tolerant, so I'm going to let these be. Though a couple of these aren't doing too great, and I'm wondering, is this root knot nematode? Yes. Okay. So I do have root knot nematode issues in my vegetable garden. If you look, and I'm going to put the mic down. Those spots right there, those are those little galls. They're showing up. It's not focusing.
There it is.
There we go. Those are root knot nematodes, so that's bad. That means that I'm probably going to put a flag here and plant some marigolds or something else. All right, let us cross to the squash. Be careful, camera lady. It's dangerous out there. All right. Let's see. Okay, we'll start with this one. So this is a patty pan. The variety is Bennett's Green Tint. It's not really super liking our heat so much. I probably should have fertilized it a while back. It's got bindweed. Our camera lady really hates bindweed. But it is still producing, so I granted that. Let's continue. Okay. So this is a yellow zucchini. And if you look, it's got these little striped beetles crawling around the flowers. Yeah, good. These are cucumber beetles. This is the striped cucumber beetle. They like chewing on your flowers and they like chewing on the foliage, as you can see right there. And this plant is kind of producing, but you know what? They haven't gotten bigger than this. And then that's happening. So I'm not super impressed with it, to be honest. I have yet to eat one of these. I'm not sure I should be admitting that. But the plant is green and healthy. And also, I kind of hate getting rid of plants. I can't throw away a plant. It's a bad habit. That's kind of what this presentation is about. But this one I'm probably going to leave be because it's just too healthy not to. So, but I've got worser examples. So let's continue. Whoa, we're walking. We're walking. We are stopping. Yes, this one. Okay. Whoa. All right, that's a good point right there. Look at that. This is Zephyr yellow squash. And the problem with this particular yellow squash plant is that it doesn't have a bud right here anymore. So this is basically just a bunch of leaves just hanging out and growing. It's not producing any flowers. It's not producing any fruit. It's just there. So this plant is definitely going to go because it's just there. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. This plant right here, this Zephyr is a yellow squash. It's got a green bottom and yellow top. It's pretty good, not too seedy. The plants don't seem to take the heat as well as the zucchini, but they're pretty comparable to my yellow squash variety. This one is still trying to set little fruit. I have picked a couple off of it last week, but they don't always mature, and they're not the color that they used to be. They are still flowering, but it's suffering from the heat. I don't think this is powdery mildew. I don't really see the mildew, though it can look very similar to that. Oh, look, there's squash bug eggs, and there's a little bit of powdery mildew. Not really. So, I am probably going to keep this plant. Oh, I got some over there too. Oh, look, squash bug eggs. Joy. Yeah. So, I'm probably going to keep that plant, but I'm going to get rid of most of these because they're just not taking the heat. And if I wanted more squash, you get to the point where you just get tired of eating so much yellow squash and zucchini. I would probably replant. But I probably don't think I will because of rotation reasons, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We're walking. We're jumping. Be careful, camera lady. We're jumping again. All right. So, pan down this row. If you look down this row, you'll notice that there is actually a bit of enthusiasm on this row. It's not as weedy as the other ones. This does have a nice pine straw mulch, which kind of helps retain moisture. These pepper plants were planted deeper than normal, and so they've actually been having less issues with drought.
You might want to point out that it's the row in the middle of this.
It's this row. It's not that row. It's this row. These pepper plants are still producing, and they're still setting small fruit. This is a Marconi right here. If you want to have a never-ending supply of peppers, this is the variety for you. Good gosh. Bell peppers and then Anaheim's further down. So these plants are doing great. They'll produce until the first frost. And, but once they freeze, they're going to be kaput. So, but they're doing pretty good, pretty healthy. So these plants will continue and such. Let's go down to the tomatoes, and we're going to start with a Vernissage Black. All right, we're walking. This was dill. We're walking. On the right here was potatoes. They were dug up. That's why the row looks so nice and suspiciously less weeds. Remember, you don't have to have a garden that's Instagram perfect to get vegetables. Okay. All right, now we're down here. All right, so this plant, let's be honest, it looks pretty bad. This plant is pretty bad.
I need to come at it from this other side because you can...
Okay, go ahead and move then. All right, so this plant is pretty bad. We've got, the tomatoes aren't normally look like this, and then we've got some interesting black rot issues right there. And that means that this plant should probably definitely be gotten rid of because we don't want that spreading to other things. Though hopefully you would have picked your tomatoes by the time they got that interesting disease. Anyway, so really what this plant is mostly suffering from is spider mites. I don't think we can catch these on camera. Pull it back. Is it focusing? Nope. So let me just describe this to you. This leaf has like these little red dots. I don't think you're getting it.
I don't think so either.
Okay. It's okay. And the coloring is kind of stippled. It's basically what the spider mites will do is they'll suck the juices out of your plant, which makes it kind of look like this. And it also gets on your tomatoes. See if you can zoom into that. And you see like the little speckling on those tomatoes? That's spider mite damage. So, it also had a little bit of caterpillar damage too, but that's besides the point. This plant was a variety that I got really excited about in the seed catalog, but when I started growing it, I realized, you know what? I'm not that excited about it anymore, so I really didn't do any management to it, and that's why it looks so bad. So to get rid, this plant would be a definite X, getting rid of it. Now to get rid of it, I've got nematodes in my garden. You saw them over there. This row has been known to have nematodes. So what I did with these tomatoes is that I grafted them onto a tomato rootstock that's resistant. So that's why they're not having nematode problems. But because this row has nematodes, what I would do is I would clip it down here at the base, take all the top growth, and then pull the roots up and let the roots dry out very thoroughly before I remove that soil. If you didn't have a root knot nematode issue, you would want to get the roots too and throw those away because they can potentially harbor diseases and such. But this top, I don't have a problem with this, surprisingly, this year. There's diseases such as septoria leaf spot, and then the blights, the spores can potentially come off the leaves, so you want to remove all the top growth from that row. Now, I do practice crop rotation. I'm not going to plant tomatoes or anything else in the Solanaceae family there, but this is just good practice for when I do eventually get back to this row with a Solanaceae crop. All right, so this plant isn't looking too great because I really didn't do anything for the spider mites. I did try to make an effort for the other spider mites. Let's look at the Cherokee purples, and I want to get this side first. So look at this side first. This is the side that gets the afternoon sun. And then we're going to go look at the other side a little bit. We're walking, we're walking, we're walking, we're walking, we're walking, we're walking, we're stopping. Okay, so you notice that there's a lot more growth on this side. You remember what I was saying about lack of enthusiasm? I eventually got to the point where I lacked enthusiasm to tie up the plants. I just kind of felt sorry for them. They looked like they were doing so much better on the ground. And so I put them, focus on this, on cages to kind of suspend the tomatoes off the ground. Because if the tomatoes touch the ground, the wet soil or the moist soil too much, they can get a rot. So that's why we kind of trellis the tomatoes or have them up in cages. This Cherokee purple variety is doing a lot better. Let's go ahead and go back to the front. Now that you've seen this side, you can believe me. It's still trying to set flowers. Here's a flower right there, and here's a flower right there. That's a double flower. So you can see that the little tomato fruits are not setting right here, even though it is still blooming. We're going to go to the other side because honestly, it's easier to walk on the other side. Okay. Oh, watch out, camera lady. Okay. So, I remember that I said these plants were grafted. So they're a little bit higher value than your normal tomato transplant. These tomato plants are also indeterminates. Hold on. Okay.
And I think I need to be on the other side of you because
okay.
there's too much shadow.
Let's switch. We're going to switch because we're getting too much shadow. These tomato plants are indeterminate. So they're going to produce a little bit here, a little bit there, and they're not going to set a crop all at once or within 2 to 3 weeks. So indeterminate tomato varieties, generally, if they're in good shape, you would let them go because you aren't going to have enough time to get indeterminate tomatoes by the time your first frost hits if you plant them in like June or July for most varieties. Cherokee purple kind of takes its time to produce tomatoes, so I'm not going to replant these. If I can keep them in good health, I'm going to let them go until first frost. So let's go that way. We're walking. Camera lady is walking backwards. Very dangerous in this garden. We are stopping. All right. Now, you might get to the point where you're not too impressed with a certain tomato variety, and you're like, I don't really want to mess with that plant anymore. That is this tomato variety here. This is, ooh, gross. This is needed to be picked a long time ago. All right. Oh, gosh. All right. This is Castelluto furinoso. I am not pronouncing that correctly. Should just keep that in mind. Anyway, it's an Italian ribbed variety that's surprisingly heat tolerant and crack resistant. Very little cracking on here. However, the spider mites really, really like this variety, and it's not as pretty as the Cherokee purple. So, and it's also having some issues with grasshoppers. Now, hornworms can cause similar issues, but considering the amount of grasshoppers that we have out here and that I have yet to catch a hornworm out here, this is probably grasshopper damage. So, What you can do for grasshoppers is you can spray a insecticide that leaves a residue, because unless you want to chase the grasshoppers around your vegetable garden, you can also use netting. But I have spider mites here. An insecticide like that really isn't an option right now because it'll make the spider mites worse. Yay! I guess I'm taking this with me. All right. So this plant I would remove because I don't like this variety, though I will say that it is still flowering. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are tiny, well, I would be surprised if there's tiny tomatoes out here. But this would be a variety that I'm going to get rid of because I just don't like it anymore. Over here we have Big Beef. Big Beef is another indeterminate variety. It is still flowering. I'm not sure if any of these flowers are setting. But they might. Well, they probably won't. But yeah, it's worth giving a shot. The plant still looks relatively healthy. Yes, I know you see all the dead leaves. But look, it's got all these green leaves too. Look at that. That's pretty. Yeah, and flowers. So I'm going to leave this variety. This is Atkinson. It's an open pollinated variety. You could save the seeds from it. And it is still, it's got some tomatoes on it. And if this one stays, that'll be a baby tomato right there. So that's actually kind of impressive. However, it's having some issues with spider mites. So I'm kind of undecided if I'm going to take it out or not. It too is an indeterminate. All right, let's keep going. Now, the type of tomato plants that you're going to be most likely to take out are going to be the determinate types. This variety right here is called Bella Rosa. It produces nice, big, large tomatoes. It's a hybrid variety. Let's see. But it's not looking too great. It's got one tiny tomato on it, and that tomato doesn't look that great either. So I promise you, they are bigger. They are much bigger than that. This is just a little, like, leftover tomato. It does have one thing of fresh growth with flowers, but that's... And then a little bit down here. But it's a determinate tomato. I'm not going to keep it. Oh. Huh. How did I do that?
You pushed it through.
I pushed it through. Okay. So, we're not going to keep that tomato. It's going to go. Oh, look at the marigold plant. Growing right by the tomato plant that's dying. Anyway, this is Tasty Lee. It's still got a few tomatoes on it. Tasty Lee doesn't produce great big tomatoes. Oh.
Yeah, that tomato, it looks like it's part of...
Oh, yes. Let's get rid of that tomato. So this is Tasty Lee. It's doing all right. I'm going to let it stay there until those tomatoes ripen, and then I'm going to pick it, but then I'm going to get rid of it. This plant right here is a Tasty Lee too. This one was planted earlier than the other one. It was kind of an experiment plant. I was actually expecting this one to freeze, and it did not. But it produced a long time ago, so it's time for it to go. It's not going to produce anymore. And this one's not grafted, so let's see. Yeah, roots are kind of bumpy. Yeah, it got root, not nematode. Tomato roots don't normally look like that, just FYI. So, that's why I graft my tomatoes. And I'm going to mark that row as nematodes. Alright, so let's walk this way. Watch out for the bumblebees on the sunflowers. That's one good thing about the weeds. Pollinators like them. Alright, so that was going through the garden, figuring out what you're going to keep and we're figuring out what you're going to get rid of. Just as you go, if you're doing warm season vegetables, make sure that if you're planting new ones, that they're going to have enough time to produce before your first frost date. Check your local county extension office for your first frost dates. And or give them a call. That's always good. And with that, I think we are finished.